Hey everyone, this tutorial is going to cover how to create a vector image from a photograph. I am here in Photoshop to start, and I have this image that I took really quickly of this little plastic cup, and I'm going to get this ready so that I can trace it in Adobe Illustrator. So to start, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to crop, and I want to try to isolate this image um, within the background so I don't have a lot of extraneous information behind it. All right, so I'm just going to crop in here like so using the crop tool and hit return. And let's zoom in a little bit so we can see this better. Now, it's best if we try to eliminate as much of the background as possible. Ultimately, what I want here is just the vector of the cup itself and not necessarily the background. So to start, I will go up to select and select subject. This will calculate and hopefully define the perimeter of our object. Again, it's best if you have a neutral background. If you have a complicated background, it's harder for the computer to process. So that's why I've photographed this on a white background. Okay, so you can see the marquee is nicely around the perimeter of the object. And so now what I will do is go to select again and select inverse. Now I have the background selected and I'm simply going to delete it. It'll ask you how you want to delete it. I want the contents to be white and just hit OK. All right, now I'm going to hit Command D to deselect, and we can see that our image is nicely placed on a white background. It's a little choppy here on the edges, but that's okay. So what we are going to do next is something that seems a little absurd, but trust me, it'll make sense when we get to tracing. Ultimately, when you image trace, the computer tries to calculate all the little variances and details that you see. And particularly if we zoom into some areas, you can see that there's a lot of texture, right, going on. So what we want to do to make this a bit more of a graphical image is eliminate some of the texture. Now, to do that, we can actually just use the blur filter to eliminate a lot of this kind of information. And it seems weird, but it works pretty well. So we're going to go to filter, blur, and let's do the Gaussian blur. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Now here you can adjust from extremely blurry, which this will not do well, and very minimal blur, which will also not do well. So we want to have something kind of in between. I would say, let's try like 20 pixels. All right. I think this looks pretty good. What I'm looking for is a bit of a smooth transition on these edges. It might get a little weird in here, maybe a little weird in here, but I think that this will be okay. So we're going to try it out. I'm going to hit OK, and then let's go ahead and save this. Save as, whatever you like. Cup, blur, and go for it. Okay. So now this is saved. And let's go ahead and open it in Illustrator. So we jump to Illustrator. I'm going to create a new document. 12 by 12 is good for what we're working with. RGB is good. And then also we're going to do 300 ppi, which is great as well. So get that all set up, hit create, and we'll get a new document started here. All right, here's our document. And what we can do now is go to File, Place, and let's locate our cup blur, and let's place this up in the corner. All right. If it comes in humongous, you can just Command minus and then scale it using this, selection tool. You can just scale, okay, like this. And if you need to, if you scale, it'll get out of proportion. Command Z there. And so you can scale and hit shift to a size that you want. Okay. And then Command 0 will give you a full screen of the image again. Okay. So here we are. Let's just center this. And we've got our image. Now what we're going to do next is go to Window and Image Trace. And this gives us a menu that we can work with. So what we want to do is first we are going to do Mode Color. Okay. We're going to limit the amount of levels instead of 30 to 4. Okay. because we're going to have a real minimal sort of thing here. I'm going to open up advanced. And here, what I want to do with corners, I don't want to have a lot of sharp edge corners. So I'm going to reduce this down to actually 2%. And then with noise, I want the noise to be eliminated as much as possible. So I'm going to make this 100. 52, 100 there. Okay, and then the last thing is I'm just going to click this box, ignore white, and hopefully it will do that background. Okay, and then you can just click this button, trace. If you get this pop up, it's all right. Just click this button and hit OK. It'll take a little bit to calculate. It's going to try to approximate the pixel densities and color tones, and then voila, there we have it. So here you can see I've got 3 layers of color, okay? And we have a vectorized image that actually looks pretty good. I mean, we could definitely alter it, but for what we're working with here, this is a great start. So now if I was to take this to Vinyl Cut or even laser cut, I would need to do a little bit more processing. First off, what I would do is go to Object, Image Trace, and then go to Expand. And so that will turn your image into paths, right? Which is great. So if we do Command Y, we can see we've got all of our paths here that a laser cutter or a vinyl cutter could follow. Okay, so next, what I like to do is hit Command Y again and use the selection tool and just select everything. And you know, actually, this looks pretty good, but if you end up with an image trace that's filled with points, right, it's going to be a lot for a laser cutter or a vinyl cutter to sort of follow through. Additionally, if you want to make some edits, it's going to be a lot to do each one. So what you can do is go to Object, Path, and Simplify. Okay, and notice the default that I have set here eliminates a lot of points. And now you can imagine if I wanted to change a few of these things, it would be much easier than 100 little dots along the line here. So I think that looks pretty good. I can just simply click outside of this and it will remain in that sort of form. Okay. The last thing that I'm going to do is select this and actually, I think we're actually pretty good. Let's see what happens if we select this whole thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the last thing actually I want to do is because I do want to eventually work on individual layers instead of this whole thing, right? So what I want to do is just click on Ungroup. So I'll just undo that again. What I've done is with the direct selection tool, select the whole thing and then click Ungroup. And then now I can work on individual pieces and components as I go. And again, if you need to edit, let's just get rid of this image trace thing. What we can do is go in, like if this little wobble is a little funny, we can simply go in to that and move it with the direct selection tool or change the handlebars to alter the curve accordingly so we get a little bit smoother transition. So again, within this, you can alter and change forms as you go. Now, if you are sending this to the vinyl cutter, save it as an SVG, and this will open up with all of the layers separated. All right, this is it for now. We'll see you at the next one.